This is the Palin Update on SaraNet Radio. I'm Kevin Scholla.
Thank goodness Tea Party Americans they don't need a leader, an individual. They're not a bunch of sheeple. They're good, hardworking, patriotic, independent Americans.
The Tea Party Express and Sarah Palin have worked hand in hand in recent years. Today, Amy Kremer, the chair of Tea Party Express, is here to talk about a big election year. Sarah Palin endorses two great candidates from Texas. A brand new Commonwealth Common Sense with Susan Stimson is on the way. And just ahead, our latest edition of Steel Resolve with Sarah Steelman. First, we welcome in the chair of Tea Party Express, the amazing national Tea Party group committed to identifying and supporting conservative candidates and causes that will champion Tea Party values and return our country to the constitutional principles that have made America the shining city on a hill. Amy Kremer, thanks for joining us on the Palin Update on SaraNet Radio.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Now, Tea Party Express stands for no more bailouts, reducing the size and intrusiveness of government, putting a stop to higher taxes, the repeal of Obamacare, ending out-of-control spending, and bringing back American prosperity. No wonder you work so well with Governor Palin. You're certainly on the same page on all of those things.
Yes, we are. The movement started coming up on 5 years. This Thursday it'll be 5 years, and it's been a tremendous, success, the entire movement. No matter what the establishment and the media is saying, we've already won because we've changed the narrative in Washington, D.C. 5 years ago, nobody was talking about cutting spending. So the movement overall, it's about fiscal responsibility, limited government, constitutionally limited government, and free markets. And then those few other things you mentioned. And if the people weren't supporting us, the movement would not be a success, and Tea Party Express would not be a success.
Well, I've had a chance to see your great events up close and personal over the years in different states, including a couple with Governor Palin, and the pure passion of the people at your events is amazing. It's so patriotic, so respectful at the same time. Do you feel that, too, that energy at your stops along the way?
Oh, yeah. That's the greatest thing. I've traveled all over this country and over the past 5 years, and the best part of that is the people. That's what makes, number one, the country so phenomenal is the people, but the movement so phenomenal as well. And it is all about the people. And God bless Sarah Palin. Look what she did this past week. Comes out and makes her first endorsement of the cycle. She's not going to be intimidated. She's not going to be bullied. And she's not afraid to speak her mind and stand up for what she believes in. And that's why people love her, because she is a force to be reckoned with, and she's not going to be shut down. And we need more people like Governor Palin.
The left still tries to paint Tea Party people as racist and hate mongers, you name it, all that nonsense, and nothing could be further from the truth. But how do you deal with these blatant lies? Because, like I said, when you see the rallies and the great Americans that come out, none of that bad stuff exists, but still, that narrative is put out there.
Of course it is, but you know what? You have to remember that if we weren't having an impact and if we weren't making a difference, they would not be attacking us. They're going to do everything they can to attack us. And look, I have friends that are Democrats, and it's not the Democrats really, because there are many Democrats that identify with this movement and agree on these issues with us. It's really the progressive left. And they, on every side, both parties have the fringe on both sides. But there's nothing fringe about this movement. We are about the United States Constitution. I don't think the Constitution is fringe. And so when they come out and attack us, they're attacking us to tear us down because they're afraid of us. And we're not going to be stopped. At this point, it's like just let it roll off your back, because all they're trying to do is to get you off the issue you're on and onto something else to distract you so that you're not productive and successful. And we just have to continue to march forward. And the day that they're no longer attacking us is the day we're no longer relevant.
That's a great point. Now, we're here in 2014 already, a couple months in.
Can you
Almost,
believe that?
I know. We've been talking about it for a while, and it's exciting in a way, too, though, that we are here, but a lot of work ahead. Now, as you mentioned, Governor Palin already playing a role. She's endorsed 2 candidates in Texas, one for Congress, one for governor. And what about Tea Party Express? Where's the focus right now, and what's to come as we move forward this year?
Well, first on Texas, that is what is unbelievable, is that primary is a little over a week away. It's not this coming Tuesday, but the following Tuesday, March 4th. And who can believe that the first primary is here? And Tea Party Express, we endorsed our first congressional candidate, and that's Katrina Pearson in Texas 32, against Pete Sessions, who is part of the leadership team in the House. And Governor Palin endorsed Katrina as well. And that is, I mean, we have to win that race. And it's because that will send a message to Washington that we are not backing down, we're not going away. It will send shockwaves through Washington if we are able to defeat somebody in leadership. But this man has been in Congress for, 20 years or going on 20 years, and is the one person standing in the way of the Benghazi Select Committee. I mean, he has said he no longer thinks we need to repeal Obamacare. The American people need to feel it so that they will then vote Republican. I mean, it just goes on and on. He got a sweetheart deal from Countrywide Home Loans. He was part of the Jack Abramoff scandal in some way. It's like he doesn't even live in his district, they say now. He remarried, and his current wife lives in Florida, and so, there's question about where he lives. I mean, it's just not acceptable. We need people Ted Cruz is a perfect example, Mike Lee, Rand Paul. We need people that are connected with their constituents and Americans across the country, and that are not just drunk on the Potomac and caught up on power and staying in office. And that's exactly what Pete Sessions is. He claims that he is responsible, he as chairman of the NRCC in 2010, that they are responsible for taking the gavel out of Nancy Pelosi's hands. And there's nothing further from the truth. If that's the case, if he was responsible for that victory, that wave across the country, what role did he play in the state legislature races and taking back these state houses and gubernatorial races? It's the Tea Party movement. But you see, we are a threat to the Republican Party and the establishment more than we're a threat to anyone else. And so they want to diminish us. They want to use us and sing our praises when we're helpful to them, but when we're not helpful, they want to act like we're the worst thing that ever happened and kick us to the curb, and we have no relevance. But so Katrina is the one that we've endorsed there, and she has an amazing story, and I want to tell you about that. But we've also endorsed Justin Amash from Michigan. We've also endorsed Carrie Bentivolio. So those are our 3 congressional races. And then we've also endorsed Chris McDaniel in Mississippi, who is challenging Thad Cochran, who's a Republican, who's been in the United States Senate almost as long as I've been alive. When he went to Washington, I was still wearing diapers and drinking out of a bottle. No kidding.
That's right. And pointing out on him, I just noticed the other day he mentioned, "I'm not too familiar with the Tea Party," was one of his to paraphrase. I mean, he doesn't even know. Talk about being out of touch. That should be your press release right there, and that's it.
Right. I mean, it's unfathomable to me. Where are these, what are they doing? Anyway, so we have endorsed Chris McDaniel. We've also endorsed Steve Daines in Montana and Owen Hill in Colorado, who is a tremendous candidate. And if Owen Hill wins Colorado, and I do believe he can win, he will be the first millennial ever in the United States Senate. And that's pretty amazing. But he's a young guy and just, understands the Constitution, understands that Washington has gotten too big and is more involved in our lives than ever before, and that we need to get them out of the way. And he's got a young family, 4 small children, and served in the Air Force. And he's an amazing story. And he left his job, but comes from working for a charity that helped children all across the world. I mean, he's been to some of the most poverty-stricken areas in the world. And anyway, Owen is a phenomenal candidate, and I really think that he's going to win that race and be the next senator from Colorado. But we are focused on the Senate because there's no one that's caused more gridlock than Harry Reid in Washington, D.C. And we took the gavel out of Nancy Pelosi's hands. We tried to defeat Harry Reid. The only thing we can do going forward, I mean, obviously President Obama isn't up for election this cycle, but we can elect a Republican, take the majority in the Senate and take that gavel out of Harry Reid's hands and hopefully slow down President Obama's agenda and maybe rein him in from some of this abuse of power. I mean, this president is lawless. This administration, I don't even know if they know that the Constitution still exists and it's still the document that this country was founded upon. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it sure is, Amy, and those are impressive candidates that you're backing. And again, we like that Governor Palin's in the mix here. You talk about the Pearson and Sessions situation. I mean, I know Texas is a big state, but I'm pretty sure Orlando's not part of it. So as far as where he may or may not be technically living, something to look into for sure. But these are great common sense candidates. That's the other thing that I think resonates with people that come to your rallies. I mean, it's a lot of people are just talking logically and talking common sense, and also the fact that you're going after these primaries. I think that's so important here because isn't that the key? It's not just important to win elections this year in November, but in the primaries too, so people actually have a real choice come November.
Absolutely. I mean, if you don't, Texas, for example, Texas 32, if we don't get involved in this primary, you're going to be voting for the lesser of two evils come November. Katrina Pearson, I mean, her story is absolutely amazing. She's a single mom. She has a 17-year-old son that she's about to send away to school. She was born into poverty to a 15-year-old mother, and she could have spent her life on that cyclical dependency of government, and she didn't. She pulled herself up by the bootstraps, put herself through college, got a biology degree, most recently worked as an administrator at a level 1 trauma hospital, and she's African American. I mean, and she did this herself. She owns her own home. What is not to, that is exactly what the GOP needs. I wrote a piece that was published last week on RARE, and she is exactly what the GOP needs. I mean, with this war on women, and the left is going to use that every bit that they can this cycle, the war on women, and then, the Republicans, they say, are never going to win another election because we can't reach out. We don't know how to reach out to minorities, Hispanics, African Americans. I mean, it just goes, the youth, it goes on. And so why not lift Katrina up? And not just for the Republican Party, but to show Americans what you can do with a little courage and just, responsibility and going out there and doing it and making it on your own. I mean, she is a true success story, and she's got the number of endorsements are growing, but she can't do it without us. And so I hope it's okay if I say, people can phone from home. They don't even have to live in that district and that state. And early voting started this past Tuesday, but you can go to our website at katrinaforcongress.com and volunteer, call from your home, wherever you are, from your cell phone, and push her over the finish line. And I'm telling you, if we defeat Pete Sessions, I don't know what's going to happen in Washington. You already see how they're attacking us. But you know what? This is the thing. Washington can have all the money they want. You cannot buy passion, fire in the belly, and boots on the ground. And that's what's going to win this race.
Well, Amy, your grassroots effort is what drives the bus, so to speak, the great Tea Party Express, and it is amazing to see how far things have come. I remember 5 years ago going out in the pouring rain of one of your first things with my little girl in her stroller, and I remember she was holding a little box of Lipton tea, and this was before, people were even realizing, what everything was all about, and here she's in kindergarten now, so, it's amazing how quickly things go, but it shows, like we said before, 2014's here. How can people get involved? Tell us about your website.
Well, you can go to teapartyexpress.org and see more on our candidates. We've done podcasts where we actually interview the candidates on the issues and whatnot, so you can hear directly from them. And you can also follow us on Twitter at Tea Party Express, and then we have a Facebook page as well. And, you know, the strength of the movement is on the local level. So I always want to encourage people to go out and get involved on the local level. And if you feel compelled to run for, you know, school board, county commission or something, by all means do it. You don't have to have this pedigree and X number of zeros in your bank account to, you know, do public service and represent the people. We need good, principled, fiscal conservatives, constitutional conservatives to be our voice. And that's what Ted Cruz, Mike Lee, Rand Paul, that's what Governor Palin is, Justin Amash, and we need more. I mean, we can never have enough of that. So I just encourage people to go get involved that way and look at these races in other states. That's probably the most important thing. One thing we learned in 2010 when we elected Scott Brown to the U.S. Senate is that you don't have to live in a state to help elect somebody. You can call from home and also donate your dollars. The Tea Party movement's phenomenal. We're not very good at giving our dollars, and I think it's because most of us have never been politically active. I never donated to a political campaign ever until Mitt Romney was running and Ted Cruz was running. So, you know, $5, $3, every dollar counts. And when you're going up against these entrenched, you know, candidates, and they need the money. I mean, you have to have money to get up on the airwaves, on TV, radio, to get mailers out. So I just encourage everybody to be engaged that way, not only on some of these congressional races, but also definitely on the Senate races. But right now, Katrina Pearson, she's number one, and we need to send a strong message to Washington. I just encourage everybody to get in the fight if you're not already in it. If you're in it, work harder and smarter, and let's just do it. It's going to take all of us, but I have full faith in the people, and God bless you all. God bless America. And thank you, Governor Palin, for leading.
Wonderful, Amy. Thank you.
Thank you.
For more on Amy Kremer and Tea Party Express, head to teapartyexpress.org. A couple of huge endorsements from Sarah Palin this past week, both in the Lone Star State. Katrina Pearson for Congress and Greg Abbott for governor. Governor Palin posted online, "Texas, it starts with you. 2014 is here. The choices are becoming clearer, and the battle lines are being drawn." She added, "Katrina Pearson is an emerging leader, an important voice for the future of the grassroots conservative movement. Her life story is full of hardships she has fought to overcome, which taught her firsthand the importance of self-reliance, hard work, and the blessings of liberty." And Palin says, while voting for Pearson, check the box for another good conservative, Greg Abbott for governor of Texas. Like Katrina, Greg has overcome many personal obstacles and challenges, which have made him a believer in the power of liberty and the need to defend our freedoms from the overreach of an out-of-control federal government. Sarah Pack also posted a powerful quote under a great picture of Sarah Palin this week. The quote with the bold headline, "Enough is enough," read, quote, "The permanent political class in D.C. won't listen, so let's start putting our efforts behind good new candidates who will go to Washington not to line their own pockets, but to help restore our country. It's time to put inspiration, ingenuity, and integrity over incumbency in the GOP," unquote. Pearson for Congress in Texas and Abbott for governor. To see any of the governor's posts in their entirety, visit Sarah Palin's Facebook page and follow her on Twitter at Sarah Palin USA.
It's time for Commonwealth Common Sense with Susan Stimson and Kevin Scholla.
Hey, Susan, welcome back.
Kevin, it's great to be here.
Now, I know that people, when we elect officials in government, you'd like to trust them, and that's not so easy today. There's only a few names. If you ask someone to rattle off who do you trust in Washington, a lot of times you hear names of people who aren't in office anymore instead of those that are, and you hear the word ethics bandied about. Now, you came across something this week regarding ethics and someone's supposed plan to make sure things are on the straight and narrow, but instead it's having a negative effect.
That's right, and I would say particularly here in Virginia, it's something that we're somewhat sensitive to. We've had our own issue that we're dealing with as far as the issue with Governor McDonnell and some of the perks of office. And one thing that came out of this General Assembly, the session that they're in right now, was they have told us that they were going to do ethics reform. And on both sides, Democrat and Republican, there's an article that is in the Washington Post by Robert McCartney that talks about how many loopholes that this ethics reform has in it. And in fact, they have even removed one of the guidelines in there that if you do not disclose correctly and accurately, they have removed it so that it would be a felony charge against you. So they're selling it to us as if they are doing ethics reform. And I don't know if you've been following what's going on in the Ukraine, but as you look at the clips and the pictures and the things that are coming out, you know, the news of this story, the president that had come into power and he was Putin's guy, he had a mansion that he was living in that had all kinds of, you know, beautiful things that were in it, and you can just see that that's obviously not where we are in America, but there just is a public trust problem that we have.
Well, you see it again and again, these guys taking from the till in all levels of office. I know in New Jersey alone this past year you had multiple incumbents who have been sent to jail for ethics violations and things that they've done. And you mentioned, you know, having a mansion or things of that nature. But not only are they getting material things, but this is something that could affect their decision-making, affect their voting, because, as you put it, perks. Someone could say, well, we'll do this for you if you do this for us. And unfortunately, that thing for us, quote-unquote, is, you know, a lot of times legislation that's affecting the people.
And I do think that part of what is good in Virginia, the disclosure is the part that if you're receiving campaign funds, that you know about it, that the people know who is receiving what donation. So there is sunshine that is in that, but as far as the financial disclosures that are required, and even the code itself, it really is self-policing. And I do believe that there needs to be some more sunlight in this, although I am not a fan of the criminalization of politics, which I also see happening. There's a fine balance, but certainly here in Virginia, this quote-unquote ethics reform that they're handing us is, you know, believe it or not really what they're saying it is.
You know, you mentioned that this happens in both parties, and I think that's very key here, not only from an ethics standpoint, but just from a performance standpoint. And that's why I like that, you know, Governor Palin is out there saying, hey, not only do we have to get rid of some of these Democrats, there's a lot of Republicans that you want to try to primary out here in 2014 because they're not pulling their weight.
It definitely goes both ways, and I'm certainly not at all happy with what our president is doing to the Constitution. There are greater implications to his just overriding the law as it is set forth in the Constitution. You can see this erosion. What other rights, what other infringements, what other absolute power is going to impact the people? And I think that when you're getting into the trust part of this, you know, in order to have a relationship with people, you have to have trust, and right now the people just do not have trust in their elected officials.
Well, again, this is something we'll have to look at as it moves forward. This is a very important year, and some of the most important decisions are going to be made in primary elections, not in the general. You're going to have a quality candidate to even vote for come November, and that starts now. So certainly looking at it from an ethical standpoint, it's a good idea. Susan, that's a great topic. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. Have a good week.
Susan Stimson in Virginia. More Commonwealth Common Sense next week. Now our weekly commentary, Steel Resolve. Here's Sarah Steelman.
Thanks, Kevin. The discussion over whether Ted Cruz is right or wrong about telling on fellow Republicans is typical Washington hysteria. I happen to agree with him, and I'm thankful that he is willing to stand by his promises and beliefs, especially because he ruffles feathers. If the Republicans take over the U.S. Senate and keep control of the House, that's when the proverbial rubber will meet the road. Will Republicans stand firm in their election promises to reduce the debt and the size of government? If past performance is a predictor of future performance, the answer, unfortunately, is no. That's why Senators like Cruz and Lee and Rubio need to continue to keep the pressure on establishment Republicans. Otherwise, nothing will change. That's why Cruz and Lee are willing to call them out, and that's why they get so mad. How dare he tell the truth to the people? The people need to know and understand how some entrenched Republican senators will manipulate their vote using parliamentary procedure to look good at home. What this country really needs is a balanced budget amendment with a cap on the size of government. That is the only way we will keep a lid on spending and reduce the growth in government. Most states require balanced budgets every year. It's the least we can do for our future generations. Thank goodness Senator Ted Cruz is there to keep reminding Republicans of what they said to their voters in order to get elected. This is Sarah Steelman for SarahNet Radio.
Tune in again next week for another segment of Steel Resolve right here on the Palin Update. The Palin Update, including Commonwealth Common Sense and Steel Resolve, is on demand and available for download. So just head to SarahNetRadio.net, pick the show you want to hear, and you can listen anywhere, anytime. Well, that'll just about do it for this edition of the Palin Update on SarahNet Radio. Visit SarahNetRadio.net for continuing coverage of Governor Palin. Also follow along on Twitter at SarahNet Radio, at Kevin Scholla, at Susan B. Stimson, and at Sarah_Steelman. Palin Patriots is our feature on SarahNet.net. There you can check out the writings from our great panel of contributors, including Martha Zoller, Dan Bongino, and Bader Carmoon. And I'm doing some writing for Breitbart News. Just go to Breitbart.com and search Kevin Scholla. I want to thank Sarah Steelman, Susan Stimson, and everyone here at SarahNet Radio. Thanks to Amy Kremer, and thank you for listening today. Please be sure to join us again next time for another edition of the Palin Update. I'm Kevin Scholla. Have a pleasant day.